Okay, I'm going to admit and go on mute. Ready?
Cool.
Let's go.
Today's topic is sequencing messages to reduce conversation. Not conversation, confusion. And we'll walk through what that means. But basically, this is a part of our micro webinar series where every Thursday, almost every week, we obviously skipped a few over the holidays, we hold a 15-minute webinar where we cover things like product demos so you can see what Shep's about, previews of new features coming, how-tos, best practices, and Q&A. So it's not always a pure Shep demo. It's often showing how we can address things you may be solving, but it's also kind of best practices on things that can be used outside of Shep itself. And you can register weekly at that URL, or you can just go to our website, which is sheptravel.com. And once you're at that, just in the resources tab, you'll see there's a drop down for the blog and the webinar. So you can access those. And on that page, we also have the historic recording. So we've done, I think this is our third one. So you can see the prior two recordings as well. And again, they're only 15 minutes. So pretty quick, easy to watch. So getting to the topic at hand, communication, and especially with policies and the way they look today with all the complexity around COVID travel and essential travel and such, is very tricky. You've got a lot of competing priorities and messages. It's not just the travel team that needs to get word to the employees. HR, safety, security, there's a lot of different competing messages and priorities that can cause a lot of information overload and confusion. So employees just bombarded with all this stuff. They don't know what's important, what's relevant to them, and they just got to kind of siphon through it all to find what is key to them. There's often hidden resources. So you've got all this information that's either being downloaded and dumped onto them via long email newsletters, or they've got to go and hunt and peck from your TMC to your duty of care provider, your OBT, policies, intranet sites, CDC sites and such. So there's a lot of like hidden stuff that's difficult to access and keep track of. And so what we are introducing today is what we're calling the prioritization path. And this basically is how you can get your messages from being general and often ignored to specific and actionable. So if you look at what in sort of computer engineering we call the job to be done, we look at everything with the job to be done mind frame and say the job to be done by the traveler is to make a booking. That's what they want to do. They want to make a travel booking and take a trip. They obviously start on the homepage of your OBT, and they've got to get from there all the way to here in order to get this job done. But across the way, there's several steps they have to take, and we're going to look at those as far as like pages on the OBT. So the first page that's important is obviously the search page. That's not a queue, that's a magnifying glass. So you've got your search page. You've then got your results page where you've got all the results that they can pick between. And then once they pick a result, they've got the details page, which is getting down to the sort of specific details of that result. Now, the way things are today, the kind of status quo is that on the homepage, if you look at Concur, for example, they have a big window that you can pop up that can have stuff like your approval policy, what needs to be done. And there's a whole lot of text about that. And then you can also say something around your, sort of COVID procedures, so self-quarantine and different bullet points and links out to other things in that same text. You can also have policies around preferred suppliers and even sort of refundability. So that's a lot of text, lots of links, lots of, expanding this to get more information that can be quite difficult to process for an employee. And so the way that we recommend doing it is basically breaking it apart. And this is what Shep can help you do, is breaking this apart into bite-sized chunks. So the first one, let's say, for example, on the homepage would be, do you need to get approval before you even do a search? And once that's done, they can do their search. Now, while they're searching, they're adding the where they're going to and the when. And so they've added context. So now it doesn't have to be as general. This is now, it's a hotel search, where they're going. They're going to Hong Kong, for example. So now you can pop up a message about Hong Kong in particular that says, hey, when you're going to Hong Kong, you need to self-quarantine for 12 days, for example. So they've added context, you've added a bite-sized chunk of policy. They then get to the details page, and that would be the perfect time to tell them about your preferred hotel is the Hilton, and they should book at that property in Hong Kong. So they've added context, you've added messages. They click on that Hilton hotel, and they're now at the detail stage. They're looking at rooms. Well, now it's relevant to tell them that they need to book a refundable room before they travel. And so that way, you've delivered that same amount of information, but it's not just dumped on them in one foul swoop where they have to process all of that. All right, so that is the framework. So again, just to restate some of these things, the main thing is to consider the job to be done in the stage they're at. So all these competing rules, priorities, and such, you need to work out how and when is this most relevant to the right person. So not everyone is bombarded or expected to read through an intranet site or an email newsletter. Again, it's important to start at the general. What are the things? So like, you don't need to tell everyone who goes to Concur that they need to book a refundable hotel room because they may be looking for a train or a hotel or a flight, for example. So you need to start with the general and then break it out as it gets more down the funnel towards the specific. So each message is specific to the moment they're at and actionable to them. And then prioritizing your messages. So you may have a lot of different priorities. You've got your preferred rates and your savings and your safety and your sustainability information. Well, that stuff needs to be sequenced at the right rate. So someone's not going to, if sustainability is your most important thing, maybe you need to make sure that they're seeing that at the right moment, at the right time, instead of burying it that underneath the, the sort of preferred rate information. So prioritizing your messaging is very important too. And now I'm going to show you how Shep actually does these things in real time. So for those who aren't aware, what Shep is a browser extension. So it lives up here and it can see the page that the employee is on through the URL. So it's not a website, it's able to see websites. So for example, if an employee was to go to Orbitz, we can tell them that they need to go to Concur. So you'll see this little pop-up on the right-hand side. Says, should you be here, take them to Concur. So there's your redirection. And now you'll see in Concur, what I was talking about is the multiple messages. So here we've stacked 3 messages that are based on the company's priority. What is most important is sort of being able to track and know the destination you're going to. I want to compare Spain to Belgium. I'm trying to pick out my trip. Now that's the first message, the multiple notifications. And now I'm going to add context. So I'm going to dismiss that. Here's another one telling me I need to go to my approval form, but I'm actually going to say I'm going to go from New York, and let's say I'm going to go to where I was born in Cape Town. Now, because they've added that context, Shep is able to bring in more information and tell you what's going on in Cape Town or in South Africa. So can a citizen enter the country? Do I need to quarantine? Do I need entry form requirements? So as you can see, the more information they add, the more targeted the notifications can be. And this actually works. I know most people on the call are travel managers, but this also can work outside of travel. So I'll show you how some of our other customers are using this outside of travel. So you've got leakage in travel. You also have it in general tool usage. So maybe your team wants to set up a new project and they go to Trello. Well, you can tell them that as a company, we have already paid for Asana, same way as we've got Concur. We'll go to Asana and now we're sequencing messages. So here's a comparison as why you should use Asana instead of Jira. I can close that. I can then pop up a training showing them how to use Asana. So it's a training video, walks them through the setup. You can do this in Concur as well. You could embed a video directly in. And then once they know how to use it, you can say they need to request a license. And they can fill out a form. This is an embedded form that they can fill out and request a license. And so that is what Shep is the ability to deliver multiple notifications across more than 2,000 sites. We actually work on 2,000 travel sites, never mind, the sort of non-travel sites. We do have a discount right now for those of you who are interested in using Shep. We're doing a 50% off discount that is for anyone who's able to sign up for either a pilot or a full plan before the end of Q1, because we know that travel is down, but it will be coming back, and we sort of are trying to help people get their tools in place, get their messaging notifications in place before it picks up again. Or you can schedule a call and demo, and we'll walk you through the full platform at a little bit of a slower speed directly at sheptravel.com. Do we have any questions? Okay, I see there's a question about prioritizing. So yeah, the way that works is in the admin dashboard. So as you're creating these notifications, you can see you can actually set priority. So you've got multiple notifications here in your company, and you can order those. So this is the first priority, and this is the 10th. So you'll see this one is showing up on Getty Images, telling people to use Getty or whatever. It's used pixels. These ones are all on Asana. So this is the first one they'll see, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, and such. So you can prioritize those. And you set that priority, but then as you add context, so let's say you fill out that form on Concur, you say where you're going to, that becomes a top priority because that is more specific than the last one. We've got that new context. So that's kind of how we prioritize, is both manually when you set up and then dynamically as context is added.
And we have another question in the chat,
Yeah,
Daniel, about how Shep shows restrictions between states. And I'm assuming that's COVID restrictions.
Yeah, so the way we work is we are not the data source. So like this information here is coming from a third party. If you think of us as a picture frame, you can put wherever you want and you can put whatever you want in that. So we pull from different data sources. What I'm showing you here for Cape Town or, Chicago, that is all coming from another source called Thrust Carbon. No, it's not, sorry. Thrust Carbon is our sustainability. So this is coming from a company called Satada. And Satada is a duty of care provider. So they are busy working on state-to-state information. At the moment, it's only at a country level. What you can do, however, is you can go in and you can manually set up things. If you know you have a lot of people who travel to Washington State, you can go and set up notifications specific to that. They won't be dynamic, so they won't be reaching out and asking, an API to say what is the current conditions. But if you know that a lot of people are going to Seattle, you can create one that says every time you see Seattle, show them this message that says they need to get pre-approval from someone. Or actually, I think I can, yeah. Well, so this is the notifications here. So I'm going to go to my demo account and show you what I mean. So I know we've got one company set up one specifically for Mozambique because they have a lot of travel to Mozambique. And basically, as soon as we see the Mozambique, someone types in the word Mozambique into Concur or Maputo or Vilanculas, any of those airports, this will pop up and say, before going to Mozambique, make sure you schedule an appointment. So again, the difference with that is that one will show up for everyone. It's not pulling from real-time dynamic data sources. This is a set message that shows up every time it sees Mozambique. So yeah, we will be getting more state-to-state information. That's just kind of coming from a third party that we don't have control of.
And we have another question, Daniel.
Yeah.
Are you agnostic to all OBTs or just Concur?
Yeah, so basically, we are a browser extension that works on all these websites, and the OBTs are all websites in the exact same way. You do have to log in. We haven't set it up on that many. Our clients have all used Concur or Get There, I think are the two main ones that we've worked on. But we haven't come across a travel site we can't work on. We would just need access. From you to your OBT for us to kind of build it on top of. But whether it's Agencia or Trip Actions, as long as it's a website, so access through a web browser, it would work the same way. But yeah, I think that's our 15 minutes plus a couple. Thank you, everyone, and have an excellent rest of your week.